There are 3 simple changes you can make right away to start seeing dramatic results. If that sounds too good to be true, I promise you it's not. You're going to see for yourself. So the 3 simple changes to make are in your approach, perception, and practice. Now, usually when we hear the word dementia, the first thing we think of is memory loss, which is absolutely true. It's a huge part of dementia. However, there are lots of other things that happen also that we don't usually hear about. I'm going to cover just 2 of them, and you're going to see what a dramatic impact it makes on approach and the difference when you change your approach. The first is hearing loss. Hearing loss is very highly correlated with dementia. In fact, so much so that they're now thinking hearing loss at an early age or earlier age, I'm talking about mid-40s, early 50s, is an early indicator of dementia. So here's a bonus tip. If you or someone you know is suffering from hearing loss, please get to an audiologist right away. It's imperative that you get treatment and the hearing instruments that you need, and then go through the hearing rehab process. Very, very important. You want to go to an audiologist for that. So hearing loss is definitely something that someone who's living with dementia is suffering from. So if you approach them from the side, the chances of them hearing you are very low, right? The other thing is vision loss, particularly peripheral vision loss. So if you take a moment right now, put your hand up like this, you see that that impairs your peripheral vision. Now if you start bringing your hand in like this, and finally like this, now you're getting an idea of what the field of vision is like for a person living with dementia. You can do it with both your hands and get an even better idea. And that would be for somebody who's in the middle to middle late stages of the disease. You can see it's really, really difficult for someone who's living with dementia if your approach isn't spot on. And I'll give you an example from my very first day working in long-term care to really illustrate my point. I was given the task of going around and inviting people to come to Mass. Now, I didn't know who in the building was Catholic and who wasn't, and this particular building had people living with dementia, not inside a memory care neighborhood, but within just the main building. So there were people who did have dementia and people who were not living with dementia, all mixed in together. So I was going as quick as I could because I had about 10 minutes to invite 88 people or track down 88 people and see if they wanted to come to Mass. So as I was going around the hall, moving at a pretty good clip, which is my natural gait, I saw this fella who was being pushed by another staff member in his wheelchair. I dropped down in front of him and said, "Hi, I was wondering if you'd like to go to Catholic Mass today. It's not just the layperson who's coming, but it's the actual priest. So there's going to be a Mass. It's not just communion, there's also a Mass. And I don't know, are you Catholic? Would you like to go?" Basically, I was talking about 1,000,000 miles a minute. And on top of that, I had rushed up to him, and he didn't know who I was. He'd never seen me before in his life. And it turned out I was too close to him. And how I found out I was too close to him was when he punched me in the jaw and I fell backwards onto my rear end. I hope nothing like that has ever happened to you. I know it made a really powerful impact on me, and I like to tell that story, so hopefully nobody will do anything like I did in that interaction. I did almost everything wrong. The only good thing that I did was drop down so that I was eye level or below. But because of the vision loss, the loss of peripheral vision, the hearing loss, and the difficulty in processing information, the lag time that it takes for a person living with dementia to process information, you want to do it differently than I did. So in your physical approach, you want to approach straight from the front, so that people have an opportunity to see you coming. You want to do it slowly so they have an opportunity to process that you're coming toward them. And you want to make eye contact so that you have their attention. And sometimes you might need to touch them to get their attention, but you want to make sure that you're in their field of vision so that you don't startle them. And this is, honestly, this is how people living with dementia get tagged with having problem behaviors. And they're not acting out in any way, shape, or form. They're doing what's totally normal, what any of us would do if we perceived a threat, right? So if somebody came at us from the side and we had hearing loss and we couldn't see them coming, and suddenly there was somebody standing right next to us, our natural reaction would be to strike out at them, or maybe to cower in fear, or maybe to yell out for help. And when people with dementia do this, they instead end up being tagged with the label of combative, or striking out, or crying out for no reason, or cowering in fear, inconsolable. All of these labels, you can see how easy it is for them to be labeled with things that just aren't accurate because our approach is off. So for best results on your physical approach, you want to come straight from the front, slowly. Then you want to get down either on a knee or in a seat so that you are at eye level or below. That's a sign of respect, and nobody likes to be towered over. And then the next thing you want to do is speak concisely. So you want to speak slowly, not like you're from Texas, but slowly, so that people are able to understand what you're saying. They have the proper amount of time to process what you're saying. The other thing is you want to get to the point of what you're saying. So concrete and concise. If someone tells you they can't hear you, or they're indicating that they can't hear you, or that they want you to repeat yourself, our natural tendency is to change what we've just said, even if it's only slightly, because we think that that will help somebody understand. In fact, the opposite is true. For a person living with dementia, it's like resetting the clock and going back to zero. So instead, you want to repeat exactly what you've said before. The final thing is you want to make sure that you're not in somebody's personal space. In the story I told you where I was basically an idiot and ended up getting hit for it, I didn't think I was too close, but clearly I was, or I wouldn't have been hit. So in Western culture, the proper amount of space between people is about 18 inches or an arm's length. That's our personal bubble. If someone gets inside that bubble, the implication is that there's a close personal relationship. So you wouldn't want to imply that for somebody who is maybe confused or has been thinking about something else and this is a new thing. You want to give people living with dementia the chance to change gears. So those are tips for your physical approach that will be incredibly helpful. Click through to the next video to find out what you can do about perception, the second of the 3 easy changes.